1, Linkschalt und wir spielen heute mal The Sandy Parable, wie auch immer das heißt. Wie auch immer man es ausspricht. Wir klicken auf das Spiel beginnen. Es lädt, okay. Drücke. Nein, was habe ich getan? Das Spiel erneut beginnen. Ich wollte nicht überspringen. Sorry, ich spiele das Spiel zum ersten Mal. Okay. Ja, okay. Wir müssen irgendwie das Spiel jetzt, glaube ich, verlassen. Ja, schade. Okay, das wäre jetzt gerade ein bisschen kacke. Spiel beginnen.
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Okay. Okay, wir hören uns das
Stanley
an.
worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy.
Okay,
and then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Achso, wir können es schon bewegen. Ist das? Nee. Okay. Okay, ist schon ein komischer, dunkler Raum. Okay, schaut mal. Wir gleiten so ein bisschen. Okay.
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Ja, hä? Hallo? Was ist, wenn da vielleicht das Handy ist? Ach, kacke, ist einfach da irgendwie so ein... Okay. Können wir hier irgendwo rein? Nee, das... Digga, die haben ja viel besseren Platz.
No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Ja, ich kann meine Kollegen nicht finden. Können wir da rein? Nee, ich glaube, wir sind einfach da lang, wo die Türen offen sind. Okay, da hat irgendjemand Kaffee verschüttet. Das sieht irgendwie unordentlich aus, als wäre da irgendwas passiert.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Muss er jetzt da durchgehen? Ich gehe mal lieber rechts irgendwie.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Okay, dann gucken wir mal in dieser Lounge.
Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
Ich würde sagen, ich gehe einfach
mal
weiter.
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Okay, sollen wir jetzt da rein?
And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
Nee, okay.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Okay, dann gehen wir mal zum Büro des Chefes. Ach, mit X können wir Türen öffnen.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Ja, okay. Nee, Badezimmer. Ah, hier.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Stanley just sat around.
2845.
Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845.
Wartet eben.
2845.
Hä? Nee.
Forgot, but it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened all by itself. And Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo.
Ja. Ah, okay. Okay. Oh, endlich mal wieder Licht. Boah,
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long. Whoops, nope, never mind. Stanley actually got back into the elevator and went back up. Silly me. Why did Stanley do that when he knew that it would just lead back to his boss's office?
Nein, ich möchte
Well, that's
runter.
a great question. I just can't wait to find out.
Was habe ich falsch gemacht?
Here we are, Stanley. It's your boss's office. Exactly the way it was before you got onto the elevator. It's still just exactly what it is. What a decision you've made to come up here and look at the office again. This has fleshed out the plot of the story in new and fascinating ways I could have never anticipated. It's that keen eye for storytelling that you have, an incisive rapid fire of critical plot points, one after the other, weaving a rich tapestry of uncompromising narrative. Wow! I'm bolted to the edge of my seat.
Endlich.
Incredible. Now he's getting back into the elevator and going down again. Ladies and gentlemen, how does he keep coming up with all of this?
Endlich. Oh.
Surely this time Stanley will walk forward into the spooky corridor, won't he? Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
Warum sind hier so viele Fernseher? Fernseher. Bitte geh doch zu. Ich finde das irgendwie, das macht mir richtig Angst, wenn das hier so offen ist. Okay, runterspringen kann ich mal nicht.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing. This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
What is that?
No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof, the heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls.
Kurz gucken.
Once and for all.
Okay. Ich habe nur schnell eine Einstellung geändert.
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes! He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Haben wir das Spiel durchgespielt? Also ich habe gehört, es gibt verschiedene Enden. Wir können gleich noch ein bisschen weiterspielen. Wir haben nämlich ja klar noch Zeit. Also okay. Hä? Genau, ich kann dir erklären, was das heißt. Ihr habt das immer gehört so. Das heißt jetzt, wir haben das Spiel durchgespielt. Ich zeige euch jetzt mal ein anderes Ende.
What could it mean?
Das
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Ich zeige euch jetzt ein anderes Ende. Das habe ich mal, davon habe ich mal
When
gehört.
Stanley came to a set of two
Soll ich
open
hier
doors,
lang?
this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow. Yes,
Dann geht man hier lang.
this room. What? But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so
geht man
bad
hier
at
lang.
following directions, it's incredible he wasn't 5 years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off, but in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
Ja, so ist es. Es gibt hier natürlich noch andere
This
Ende,
is the
aber
story of a man named
die möchte ich jetzt euch hier nicht unbedingt zeigen, weil es dauert ein bisschen
All
lang.
of his co-workers were
würde sagen,
gone. What?
Das war's mit dem Video. Wenn es euch gefallen hat, lasst gerne ein Like und ein Abo da. Bis nächstes Mal. Ciao.